त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेव। श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तिसुदेशिकेन्द्रं द्वैपायनं सूत्रकृतं मुनीन्द्रं श्रीशङ्करं भाष्यकृतं यतीन्द्रं मद्देशिकं चापि नमामि विद्यै। ओम नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्यासम्प्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहितप्रज्ञानगणः प्रत्यगर्तो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। ओम प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। So, pranams everyone. So we will continue the session where each one of you would try to share your understanding of Bhagavad Gita, and if there are any questions or comments, we can actually discuss them as well. So anybody who would like to go first today?
Yeah, I would like to go first.
Balaji, can you hear me?
Yes, Lataji.
Yeah, I think I'm having some sound. I can't hear you quite clearly. Maybe I'll just leave the session and join again in a bit.
Sure.
Okay, so we're having some problems.
Suji, can you hear me?
Yeah, Karthik, yours is very mild. Yeah, you can start.
Is it okay? Any better?
Yes, it is better.
Okay. Just before I start, I have just picked up some shlokas for my learnings and just to express my thoughts, obviously, under the guidance of Guru, yourself.
Still mild, very. Karthik ji, still really very low.
Any better now?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll get started. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Gross and material accomplishments of the highest order can fall miserably short in dealing with life's challenges. As was evidently clear with the greatest archer Arjuna, wanting to give up in a battle he was preparing for all his life. His attachments deluded his thought process, driving his mind crazy. But Krishna grabbed his attention to the crisis at hand by admonishing him. In Shloka 2.2, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Kutastva Kashmalamidam Vishame Samupastitam Anarya Jushtam Aswargya Akirtikaram Arjuna. A matchless archer at this critical juncture in a warfield should not be giving up that which would bring infamy and shall not lead to higher worlds of Swarga. Then he moves on at Shloka 7. Karpanya dosho pahata swabhava prichami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha yachraye syan nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyastoham shadimam tvam prapannam. So life's challenges will present opportunities for all of us, including Arjuna, to become a seeker of truth, a seeker of shreyas or felicity. This starts your journey from ignorance to knowledge. We too, all of us here assembled as well, are seekers rising out of our own life struggles, interested in seeking the higher truth, the higher shreyas. Arjuna is a seeker surrendering to Krishna, that is Bhagavan. And Bhagavan says, surrender yourself to Shastras and the word of the Supreme with Shraddha. Moving on, Bhagavan starts laying the foundation of the true identity of the self, that is Atma. In Shloka 2.11, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashocyan Anvashochastvam प्रज्ञावादांश्च भाषसे गतासुंश्च नानुशोचन्ति पंडिता. So wise do not grieve over the living or the dead. Bhagavan clearly calls for introspection and reflection driven by intelligence, sitting on an unshakable foundation of the Atma Tattva. In Shloka 2.12, he says that Atma is eternal. In Shloka 2.13, he points out that change is nature and nature is change. Everything is but a transition. In Shloka 2.13 he says, Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara prapti dhirastatra na muhyati. Material bodies are like garments for the soul. It is but transient. At the mental level, all interactions are either pleasant or unpleasant, and all of it is transitory in nature. Forbear them. Shloka 2.14 illustrates that. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shito ushna sukha dukkada agama paino nityastam stitikshasva bharata. Sensory knowledge can cause delusion. Apply your intelligence and discern between the changeless and the changeful. Atma is described with various adjectives such as Anashino Avinashi, indestructible, Nitya, eternal, Aprameyasya, immeasurable. Atma neither can kill nor is it killed. Nayam Hanti na Hatva in Shloka 19. Knowledge is the real goal of human life. The world is nothing but Panchabhutas. The senses can only interact and deal with Panchabhutas. Apply your intelligence and get a complete understanding of yourself. In Shloka 2-24, Achedyoyam Adhayoyam Akledyo Shoshya Evacha Nityaha Sarvagata Sthanur Achaloyam Sanatana. Achedya means unbreakable, Adhaya cannot be burnt, Akledya insoluble, Ashoshya cannot be dried, Sarvagataha all pervading, Sthanuhu unchangeable, Achala immovable, Avyaktoyam invisible, Achintya inconceivable. Bhagavan lists the qualities of the self for all of the seekers to contemplate upon the self, imbibe them and make them his own. In Shloka 2-29 he says, Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidena denam Ascharyavat vadati tataiva chanyaha Ascharyavat chainam anya shrunoti Shrutva penam veda na chaiva kaschita. Here he speaks of the rarity of people who see Atma as wonderful, who speak of Atma as wonderful, and who hears about Atma as being wonderful. So all of us speakers also are in that rare group, and hopefully we can pursue our goals. After enumerating the qualities of Atma, Bhagavan moves to worldly considerations as well. In Shloka 2-31 he says, Swadharmam api chaveksha na vikampitu marhasi dharmyadhi yuddha shreyonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. So where he says, he is talking about Swadharma, doing our own duty, and performing what is expected of us, failing which we would incur sin. In Shloka 2-38 he again says, Sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labhav jaya jayo tatho yudaya yujyasva naivam papama vapsyasi. So life's interactions can only result in sukha or dukkha, victory or failure, profit or loss, generally called pairs of opposites, right? So be equanimous to both and just do your duty, not just for yourself, but for the society and the world at large. At verse 2-39, Bhagavan starts introducing Karma Yoga. एषा ते विहिता सांख्ये बुद्धिर्योगे त्विमां शृणु बुद्धया युक्तो यया पार्थ कर्मबन्धं प्रहास्यसि. He says wisdom can only be pursued by intelligence. Active life could be put to great use to elevate with intelligence. Buddhi Yoga. So perform all your actions without attachment to results, which is basically Ishvara Arpana and Prasada Buddhi. In verse 2-40, he says, Neha Vikramano Nashosti Pratyavayo na vidyate Swalpamapyasya Dharmasya Trayate Mahato Bhayat. So when you do activities with such an attitude, Ishvara Arpana and Prasada Buddhi, they will not end up in adverse results, nor is there a loss of effort. So when you do with, Ishvara Arpana and Prasada Buddhi, all those actions will not end up in adverse results or loss of effort. Then in 2-41, he says, Vyavasaya Atmika Buddhir Ekehe Kurunandanaha Bahushaka Hyanantascha Buddhayo Vyavasayinam. While performing activities, the mind, with the help of intelligence, should be resolutely focused on the self. Else, it is easy for mind and intelligence to branch out in multitudinal ways, leading to distraction, dismay, and destruction. Later at Shloka 54, Arjuna, now wanting to understand about Sthita Prajna and Sitadi, says this. Sthita Prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava sthitadhi kim prabhashet kim asit prajet kim. How does Sthita Prajna, what is the Lakshana for Sthita Prajna and how does he interact with the world? Shloka 2.55, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmanyeva atmana tushtaha sthita prajnas tadochyate. When mind is freed of all desires, remaining contented from within, that is a sthita prajna. Right? And in Shloka 2-56, Dukkeshva anudvigna manaha Sukheshu vigata sprahah Vitaraga bhayakrodha Titadhir muniruchyate. So he explains that a Siddha Prajna, after his absorptional stillness, when wakes up and engages in interactional activity, it does not dislodge him. His spiritual sublimity will continue to grace him. He rises above raga, that is attachment, bhaya, that is fear, anger, that is krodha, and achieves interactional sublimation, enrichment and delight as a sthitadi. Later, Bhagavan also emphasizes the need for sensory discipline, shamatama, and being particularly aware of the slippery slope with sensory interactions. Reflecting on sensory objects causes clinging, which in turn causes desire, wherein comes passion, which in turn can cause anger and hatred. This causes more delusion and forgetfulness, and we lose discrimination, leading to total destruction. And he emphasizes in 2-61, Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matparaha vashehi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. Having regulated all the five senses with focus on me, he will have a steady consciousness and a steady intelligence. Now moving on to chapter 3, Arjuna starts with the question, why not Jnana Nishta for me over Karma Nishta? Jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tatkim karmani gore maam niyojayasi keshava. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha and Sri Bhagavan answers, Lokesmin Drivida Nishta Pura Prokta Maya Naga Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. The journey from ignorance to knowing your true self is a two-step process. First step is achieving spiritual maturity through karma performed as karma yoga to become sufficiently dispassionate. Second step, after achieving the fitness in terms of inner enrichment, inclusive of both mental and intellectual enrichment, you can embark on Jnana Yoga. So for activity-oriented people like householders, Karma Nishta is the way forward to achieve spiritual enrichment instead of exclusive contemplation. Activity in life will unravel our true nature of mind, allowing us to apply correction, sublimation, and achieve elevation. Some time should still be kept for contemplative meditation so that interactional sublimity could be achieved. Then 3-9 Yajñartha karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. He says, perform all your actions with a yajna bhavana for the sake of Bhagavan and release yourself from the bondages of all actions. Do your yajna, that is duties, day in and day out with all that you have at your disposal. This has been covered by Balaji in the form of Panchabhuta Mahayajna. So we have to do our duties in that regard. Next, moving on, 3-14 Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyat anna sambhava yajñat bhavati parjanyo yajna karma samudbhava. The entire creation is sustained by yajna. None lives and thrives alone in isolation in this world. We are interdependent on many factors around us. The people, the society around us, the environment, the flora and fauna. Yajna bhavana is the foundation in the sustenance of the nature. Do all your activities without any clinging for the greater good and welfare and free yourselves, ourselves from bondage. Tasmat saktas tatatam karya karma samachara asakto yacharan karma paramapnopti purushaha. In shloka 3-19, he says, without any delusional clinging attachment, do your duties for the greater good, and with such attitude you shall attain the supreme. In verse 3-21, yad yadacharati shreshtas tat evetaro janah sat sa yat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. So he says here that lead by example, O Arjuna. As commoners follow the examples of leaders, if leaders shun away from their duty, it shall set wrong examples and set in motion inappropriate behaviors in the society. So everybody has to do their own part, and that's how the universe sustains itself. Name parthasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana nana vaptam vaptavyam varta evacha karmani. Bhagavan says, I don't even have a speck of duty or compulsion in all the three worlds. I have nothing to gain, yet I am relentlessly active. If I don't remain active, all else will follow suit and this will lead to total destruction. Next, in verse 3-30, Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetasa Nirashir nirmamo bhutva yutyasva vigatajvaraha. Surrender all your activities unto me, fully being aware of your true self, the Atma principle, rid of any desires and possessiveness. Perform your activities confidently without any agitation and stress. Next, in 3-35, he says, Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmartha swanushtitat swadharma nidanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha. Be centered in your own duty and perform it well. Performing your own duty devoid of merit is still way better than performing someone else's duty. Kama esha, then moving on to 3-37, Kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhavaha mahashano mahapapma vidyenam iha vairinam. Desire, anger, born out of passion is our biggest enemy. Desire envelops knowledge as is fire covered by smoke, or mirror by dirt, or fetus in a womb. Senses, mind and intelligence are the seat of desire. Hence, regulating the senses, empower your intelligence. Superior to the body are the senses. Superior to them is the mind. Superior to the mind is the intelligence. And above all stands Atma. Finally, at the end of chapter 3, Bhagavan says, Evam buddhe param buddhva samstabhyatmanam atmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. Knowing thus what reigns within the body as superior to even intelligence, confidently regulating the senses and mind by your own inner power, win over the mighty armed in the forms of the desires that are hard to conquer. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. I end here.
Very nicely presented, Karthik ji. You had covered almost all the important shlokas there of chapter 2 and chapter 3. Very nicely done.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Who will do next? Lataji, last time you wanted to speak, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. I was going to switch on my mic.
Yeah.
Okay, Hari Om. What I've done is I was from your explanation or from your request, you had asked us to what we have internalized from chapter 3, Karma Yoga of Gita. So I will try to highlight. I will not be highlighting the slokas because I am not able to do it, cannot remember, not able to say it. So I will just highlight some of the key takeaways that resonate with me, and please correct me if I'm wrong in my thinking. And some of the Sanskrit words which are used maybe also if it's incorrect, please just let me know. So I must also admit the points that I'm going to mention is those that I've jotted down during the class. So I hope there are no errors, or there might be errors, just let me know if my understanding is correct. So from starting with chapter 3, after glorifying Jnana Yoga over Karma Yoga as a pathway, spiritual advancement to achieve liberation of moksha, as been mentioned earlier by chapter 2. Chapter 3 starts with Arjuna asking Bhagavan why is he being asked to do his duty as Kshatriya and wage the war, that is, this terrible war, instead of retreating from his material world, renounce active life and become a sannyasi. That is what he wanted to do. This was his attempt to not fight the war, and by using Jnana Yoga as an excuse. So in chapter 3, Bhagavan makes it quite clear that the path to achieve moksha is first to do our prescribed duties and responsibilities, whether we like it or not. Moksha is achieved through sadhana, but not the two lifestyles, grahastha and sannyasa lifestyle. One one cannot become a sannyasi by shunning the prescribed duties, as this only leads to disturbance to the sexual order. Karma yoga precedes jnana yoga. As such, performing one's prescribed action is unavoidable according to the qualities gathered from this jnana. Inaction cannot lead to moksha because being quiet and not doing action, not performing your action, cannot be taken as a sadhana. So Bhagwan's clear message to Arjuna is not to shirk his duty and not to take up, and to do his duty rather, and not to take up sannyasa. So the next point which to me is significant in chapter 3 is the concept of performing your duties, your responsibilities without attachment and with Ishvara Prasad. And more importantly, it's the attitude that one must have in performing these actions without having expectations from the result of the action. The actions done other than for Ishvara will find you. This is from Sloka 9. In fact, in Sloka 30, he says that it's not the action that binds you, but rather it's the attitude behind the action. So there is this link that it's not the action, but really the attachment that is important. On top of that, the outcomes of the action is whether it's favorable, unfavorable. We need to take it as Ishvara Prasada and not think of it as because of your effort that the result has come about. While many may be aware of this knowledge, this fact, I think many of us here may be aware that it's Ishvara Arpana Buddhi and Ishvara Prasada, but I think it's quite difficult and it takes time to internalize, especially when it comes to unfavorable, unhappy results. It's very difficult to stay detached. That's my thinking. So the other takeaway with regards to Karma Yoga is that I think it's in Sloka 12 that stood out for me is that Kamya Yoga, karma or activities due to desires is not wrong, but these need to be balanced with Prasada Buddhi and Dhanam. So we need to remind ourselves to develop the attitude that results in Ishvara Prasada, and it is not from our efforts. This is to develop Chitta should be to reduce one's desires and expectations outcomes. For Grahasthas, performing the Pancha Mahayagnas daily is important for spiritual growth. In Sloka 17, Bhagavan also said that the mindset of he also said about the mindset of a jnani has got nothing to gain through action or inaction, but no dependence towards gain. Any gain, even Ishvara has no resistance to the other side. Despite that, jnanis perform duties for social good, so as role models for others to follow on how to be on social conduct. In fact, in Sloka 23, one says that it's the dosha of the society if there is no proper shishtachar. Other takeaways that resonated with me from chapter 3 is that the advice given to jnanis, I think it's in chapter 26, on how to deal with ajnanis, especially the two Pamaraha and Vishya, Nitya, of the 4 different types of people, is not to engage them on Vedas. This will only make them more averse to Vedanta. This I find very true even within my family circle, as I get quite a bit of pushback that it gets hard for me to defend them because I'm not in a position to elaborate on spirituality. So while this is a relief, it is that we don't have to go around maybe spreading Vedas is not really not advisable. It is said that we can't convince people like family members to minimally spend time with them. I've always felt that spirituality is a private and personal journey. The other point that other takeaways that we can't change anyone's nature, Prakriti, and it's better that you perform your duty. So Dharma, even slowly, if it first comes first, then to do another's duty. Parama Dharma. Another. So even to do it perfectly. And to conquer karma's desires. If it's a life enemy, although Bhagavan at least spoke up for his say that this is difficult. I hope I have understood the above correctly. There are many concepts I still need to revisit your videos or your YouTube channel, especially Sloka 28 to clear a number of confusions that I have. Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om, Lataji. Very well. I mean, there has been no mistake actually. I mean, you had captured the essence correctly. And the point around how difficult it is to internalize prasada buddhi, especially when there are some unfavorable situations or unfavorable outcome in terms of how to take it as prasada. Actually, yeah, both favorable is as well as unfavorable is difficult to take it as Ishvara Prasada, because favorable people would want to believe that it is through their own effort that it has happened, and when it is unfavorable they would want to not believe it as something that comes out of Ishvara, but to believe that it is either it's a question of feeling of a guilt that they may not have done enough, or it's a question of blaming others who could have been the reason for their failure. Yeah, it's always difficult to internalize this, especially when we think that it is in our hands. Everything is in our hands and we can actually decide how the outcome will be. So the Ishvara Arpana and Prasada Buddhi is a bit difficult to internalize. I agree on that one. Yes, but we keep remembering that that karmanyavadhikaraste mapaleshu kadachana. We have a right over action, but the results are not in our hands. But whatever we need to do, we have to do it with full commitment. And if we are able to do that with full commitment and full dedication, then we can be free from that guilt that I was the cause for failure. So that's how we can actually overcome that. Anyway, well understood. And also your point around Vishayanas and Pamaras, not to actually engage them or not to sort of drive them to Vedanta. Yeah, I mean, people will take their own time. They will come one day. If it is our own close relative, close family member, we can actually sort of give this, a few minutes of tidbits to them, make them feel interested or make them feel curious about it, and then come more. But there is no need for us to actually get others outside our scope of influence to actually bring them into this path. Okay, so yeah, well done, nicely done. If there are any slokas for which you would want further explanation, you can ask me, or you can actually review back that chapter or lesson from YouTube. Well done. Who would like to go next? Yes, Ganeshji. Yeah. So it's not very clear. Yeah. I think there is some kind of a break. Okay. Anyway, try again.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Yeah, now it's okay.
Now it's okay. Thank you. I'm a student for the past year or so. I am going to not necessarily share my learning from the various slokas you have been sharing, Guruji. I rather thought I will use this opportunity to talk about my learning journey and to kind of understand whether I am on the right track, and perhaps also hear how I should be approaching this, because to some degree what I am going through for the past year or so, it resonates well with even Ashish ji's comments last class, where he talked about his challenges and struggles. So I thought perhaps I will talk about my learning journey, picking few examples of what I have picked and where I have challenges to either deeply understand, appreciate, sometimes internalize or apply the concepts which I'm learning. On the face of it, a lot of these things make sense. For me, it's entirely possible that I'm not spending enough time to understand them or following up on my questions or thinking about them. And this is where any guidance will be very much appreciated. I will take a few examples. The first example, the chapter 3, sloka 8, around this karma yoga, about the path of action. You should perform your prescribed duties, for action is better than inaction. The takeaway being selfless action purifies the mind and leads to spiritual growth. What the importance behind one's duties and responsibilities. When I was thinking about this shloka, question came up to my mind: what is my duty? Is it driven by me being belonging to a certain community, my qualification, my job, my role in the family? Where does my duty start? Where does it end? Who decides that? Or how should I be thinking about it? In order to say that I'm really following the duty which I'm supposed to focus on. Another example, when I look at chapter 3, sloka 19, where this again karma yoga preceding jnana yoga. Without attachment, perform your prescribed duties. By working without attachment, one attains the supreme. The verse emphasizes the importance of selfless action as a preparatory stage for spiritual growth. Again, I think we spoke about it in the sessions. Should karma yoga precede jnana yoga? That part, sometimes I find myself challenged to understand. Logically, should it not be that we understand, appreciate, internalize knowledge, know-how before pursuing a path of action? If we don't do that, will it not be that action being pursued turns out to be suboptimal or unintentional, unintended? Another example, chapter 2, sloka 20, where Bhagavan says the soul is neither born nor does it ever die. It's eternal, unchanging, beyond birth and death. Death is merely a transition for the soul from one body to another, much like changing clothes. I vividly recall, Guruji, the rope snake example you shared in the session. But I have a personal example. Last year, my father passed away. I'm still trying to get over with that separation. While I can understand that his physical self is gone and his Atma is very much eternally alive around us, I'm still struggling to cope up with this separation. Honestly, don't know how to handle it. Sometimes the how part is not clear, even though the idea definitely is understood, is making sense, but struggling, the how part, this perhaps is around the application of what I'm learning here. And another one around, the Bhagavad Gita explicitly stating that actions in this birth, driven by the papas and punyas from our previous births, and the influence of those past actions and karmas on our actions, on our behaviors, actions, this birth. So, if our pursuits, this birth, are largely driven by the sins and virtues from our previous birth, then then how do we manage what we are doing this birth? Because if there is a causation which is triggering what is happening in this birth, how to go about going beyond what perhaps you are destined to, driven by all that you did in the past. Again, this is another question which I've been thinking. I don't know, at the end of the day, as I said, maybe I'm overthinking or overanalyzing. I don't even know whether we should think about the why question, the what question, the how question, etc. Sometimes I also understand that some of these things we should just take them on the face value and then try to internalize and apply and live through. Maybe that's a way to go, I don't know. But just trying to paint a picture of what I've been going through for the past few months of this journey with all of you. I don't know whether I'm making sense, Guruji, but this is what I thought I would share with this book today. Thank you.
Ganeshji, actually, all these questions are really valid, and it should not be taken as face value, whatever we discuss. And it is very important that we actually contemplate on what is being taught, try to internalize, and if we are finding some challenges, actually try to understand. Maybe one way is to ask questions, or to actually study more, or to listen again and again until we are actually able to do that. The Shraddha plays an important, but the Shraddha doesn't stop us from asking questions or contemplating on those that have been discussed. So definitely do not take it on face value. So all these questions are really valid. So I'll just I try to take note, and let me see whether I have actually got your questions correctly. One is your questions on what are my duties, how is it, where is it given, what are my duties are, how is it prescribed. The second thing you asked was, should Karma Yoga precede Jnana Yoga, or shouldn't Jnana Yoga be first? Because first I need to understand and then do the sadhanas rightfully for that. That was the second point that you mentioned. The third one was your issue around separation from your father. Still struggling. Is it how can I actually come out of this kind of thing? Then the fourth point, which is a very important point, when actions are driven by our past vasanas and they will influence our present day actions, then how much of free will do we have in this life to be able to pursue what we are supposed to do? So does the fate really play a part, or is it actually the free will, we have full free will or not? So that's again a very important any spiritual seeker will have to come to that stage once. Those are the questions, if I'm right? So let's take one by one. I'll probably take the separation that you had of your father, still struggling to cope with it. In my view, it is okay to have that feeling. See, we are not going to become overnight jnanis. Okay, so that is not the idea of Bhagavan also, that is not the idea of the Shastras also. Shastras do not say that you have to become an overnight jnani. For that matter, if you look at it, even for Arjuna, who was supposedly a sort of a first class student, in spite of it, Bhagavan did not ask him to come to Jnana Yoga. He still asked him to fight the war, to do Karma Yoga. So, and in terms of the separation, at the closest level, if it's a family member, if it's a really close loved one or the family member, it's always going to be difficult. We need not feel bad about it. We can take our time, do it. The idea of actually having this vairagya is we have to go, the outermost sphere of influence and then slowly move inwards. The vairagya cannot be happening internally. The last thing that we would be still holding on for a long period of time would be the body. We will not be able to overcome the attachment towards our own body. That is going to be the most difficult one. Of course, the next most difficult would be our close family members. And it will take some time. We will have to agree to it. We will have to give it that time. But as long as we know that, okay, we have to keep reminding, I have this feeling, I am still attached. But as 2:11 Bhagavan says, Ashochan Anvashosastvam Prajnavadam Shabhashase Na gatasum na gatasumsha na anusochanti panditaha. The wise man does not grieve for the dead or for the living one. That's the ultimate jnana that Bhagavan wants us to have. But obviously it will not be available for us on day one, so we will have to give it us time. So we will accept the mind as it is. So the mind is having this problem, let it have its problem, let us accept the mind as what it is right now. So that's probably one thing I would say. Do not feel any guilt over it. There is no need to feel any guilt over it. Let it be like it. We will, it will take its time, but one day we will arrive at it. Now, the second point that you mentioned about whether should it be Karma Yoga second and Jnana Yoga first I need to understand it. Very valid point again. And that's why if you really look at it, what we are doing right now is actually giving the roadmap of the entire spiritual journey, right? The idea is for us to understand what the goal is, what the paths are, and how do we get there, what is the benefit of getting there. So that's why Sthita Prajna Lakshana is given, all these things are given for us to actually feel enticed, attracted towards that position where we need to go. And then, okay, I now I have a feeling, I know where I need to be and how I need to get there. And that is the reason why we are having these classes, or why we study Shastras also. And in fact, in our culture, in the olden days, as a brahmacharya ashrama is the time when they would give us the path, entire path. So as a brahmachari, when you go to Gurukula, you would be given the entire path. You would be given what is moksha, what is jnana yoga, what is karma yoga, what is upasana yoga. The path would be given to you, and then you will also be told as to what the final destination will be. And then as you enter grihastha ashrama, you start doing karma yoga primarily. And then you actually purify my mind. Then you go to vanaprastha, you do upasana yoga primarily. And then once you take up sannyasa, you do jnana yoga and then attain moksha. So that the whole path is actually first given, the roadmap is given in the brahmacharya ashrama, and then the sadhanas are performed in each of the other ashramas until you end with the final goal. So it's given within the lifetime how to achieve it. So yes, understanding is very important, but as we do it right now, there are two things. Why? As you rightly said, to get that conviction that I have to do karma yoga because I want to be a jnani and I want to get the benefits of this jnana, is why we are doing this. Okay, and karma yoga has to be done first anyway, for the knowledge to be internalized. Otherwise, the jnana we will be discussing here. We will talk about Atma, all those things. At bookish level, we will be able to understand them. But to understand is one thing, to internalize is another. So to internalize and convert that into our emotional strength is, for that to happen, one has to do karma yoga, upasana yoga, and get to jnana. So that is the reason why we do this. I hope I was clear there. Now, finally, coming back to the point that you mentioned about your prescribed actions. What are my prescribed actions? What are my duties? Again, in those days, the duties were primarily at the level of varna and ashrama. So, which varna you belong to, you had a set of duties depending on the varna that you have taken and the ashrama that you were in. So, today, most of us are all on grihastha ashrama. So, grihastha ashrama dharma is there. And grihastha ashrama dharma here, primarily we talk about Panchamahayajnas. And in this present day world, you have to just include the role of, and of course, even in those days, the role, there is also a, Stri Dharma is there, Purusha Dharma was there. There were different sets of smritis, especially Manu Smriti was one text where each member of the society were, the roles and duties of each of the member of the society was given clearly. Of course, we don't follow these days, but for us broadly today, the role of a spouse, the role of a father, the role of an employee, the role of a boss, the role of the neighbor, the role of a citizen, or wherever I say role, you just add duty. We just need to perform, those are our given duties. What are our given duties? And try to sort of fulfill those duties in a manner in which we don't compromise on what needs to be done. So that is what is Karma Yoga now. And while we are performing those duties, we just need to ensure that we don't do it for our personal benefit. We say, I do it for Ishvara. I do it for Ishvara. And if I am doing it for Ishvara, which means I am not doing it for my boss, which means I will not worry whether my boss gives me promotion or gives me bonus or anything of that sort, because I am doing it for Ishvara. Ishvara will take care of this. My expectations will also be reduced. And that way I will be able to take it as Ishvara Prasada also, whatever comes in. So doing the best of our ability, but attributing it to the lotus feet of Ishvara is the way to actually progress faster. And Grihastha Ashrama is the best ashrama for us to spiritually progress. Better than any other ashrama, Grihastha Ashrama is the best ashrama for us, because it doesn't stop us from enjoying life. At the same time, it gives us a lot of opportunity to meet people and meet varieties of people, and therefore we will have challenges in dealing with a lot of people, how to actually accept them, how to accept people as they are, how not to actually get affected by things around us. It gives us a good, ground for us to be prepared. And our internal vasanas will easily sprout up at that point of time, and we know exactly where we stand on all those things. Now the last one, which is I hope that I have answered now. The last one, the point around if actions are driven by our past papa and punya, and they influence our actions in our current birth, then where is the question of how much of free will we have? Now this, as I said, is a very important question, very deep question. Now, how much of influence it has? Yes, it has got a lot of influence, because our likes and dislikes are almost like predetermined. And that's why when we see a person, the moment we see a person for the first time, we get this feeling, I like this person, I don't like this person. That is because of our vasanas in between, which we have accumulated over previous janmas. The likes and dislikes, when it comes, for it to actually convert that into action, that's what Bhagavan says in chapter 3. Before it converts into action, we have a choice whether to convert that into an action or a word through our mouth. Although the feeling may be there, it is our choice whether to convert that feeling into either words or action. And that's where we need to actually be, is this needed? Is this required? Should I say it? Should I not act on it? And then try to control that at that point of time, which means two things. One, we need to be in a constant state of awareness of what we are doing, what my mind is thinking, what I am saying, what I am doing. So we need to be at a constant state of awareness. The second thing is also, if I am unnecessarily getting involved in certain people, with certain groups, gossips and other things, it, as in Tamil they say, kan pona pokile manam kal pogalama, kal pona pokile manam pogalama, the mind will automatically drift easily. So the second option is to actually see, as much as possible, try to regulate the actions in terms of from a duty standpoint, do what the duties are. From the other aspects, try to keep in satsang, try to keep yourself with limited enjoyment. As in what I say, limited enjoyment within the guidelines of dharma. Try to have that kind of enjoyment, so that we try not to fall for our own vasanas. The biggest enemy is our own vasanas. So if we are able to not fall for it, and by doing the duties continuously as Karma Yoga, these vasanas will be one day slowly eradicated or subdued. It will not be suppressed. So both suppression as well as violent expression is harmful. What we need to do is to actually control it, regulate it, and try to divert it. So that's how we should be able to follow this one. Yes, there is a limitation in terms of it, but we cannot go and change our past. So we will have to pick up from where we are and try to work on what needs to be done. And that's why when we discuss the chapter 13, the values also, if for each of the values we would have discussed on what is the cause for it, what is the how do we actually identify them, and how can we overcome them. Those are things. So in the values things, we can actually go back, listen, and then say these are the areas where I need to work on, and these are the areas where I have some weaknesses on, and how I need to overcome that. But and each person is different. One person's weakness need not be another person's weakness. So we will have to, and I will not know your weakness, you will not know my weakness. So each person will have to do that internally. They have to reflect and they have to do themselves. So that's the best way. Obviously, there are family members who will point to us saying you get angry easily, or you speak harshly, you speak loudly, and stuff like that. Those are things that we can actually take and see how we can improve, rather than trying to find fault in them, trying to see how we can actually improve ourselves on that. Right. Hope I helped. Okay. Yeah. So I think I think it's almost like a couple of minutes now. Maybe we can have another session next week to go through this. And any kind of these kind of questions, please feel free to bring it up, because these are real valid questions for any spiritual seeker. I'm sure every one of us will have them. Don't feel constrained of not to bring this up. As Ashish ji brought this up last time, Ganesh ji brought this up here. Please do it. I will try to explain or answer as to the extent that I know, and with the blessings of my gurus. Okay. If there is nothing more, then we will actually close it for today, and we will take it. We will again continue this session next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.